today. So you could get a taste of the way it'll be in our class. And I'm really open to suggestions too. So if anybody's ever like, it would really help me, like I learned this way, it would help me if you do more of this or less of this, feel free to speak up. My other device is still on because I'm going to go back to that one in the other room when I walk through the login into WebAssign at the end today, and helping people with individual troubleshooting things. And we can do that before class tomorrow too, if you're going to be busy at the end of class today or tonight or tomorrow morning. So I'm open for, I don't really schedule too much. I guess my brother's coming here tomorrow to visit at 9. But other than that, like I don't try not to schedule much at all during summer session, because sometimes students need me like a little bit of help every day, and I want to be able to do that. So it's all good. So anyway, the topics that I'm going to just talk about right now are in sections 1, 2, and 1, 3 in your book. And I'm left-handed, so when I write on my tablet, I know my hand is on the screen and it looks like a big mess, but I keep it there. I keep my camera on anyway because I like to, because I don't like being taught by people who have their camera off. So I didn't even talk to you guys about leaving your cameras on and stuff like that. Everybody has different kinds of Wi-Fi capabilities, and different people might be on there. Like right now, my mom's doing an internet meditation session and my dad's watching TV. So like their Wi-Fi is a little bit tapped out. So I went into my hotspot. I'm using my hotspot for this part. So everybody's different. So I don't ever demand like you have to have your camera on the whole time so I could see you at every minute. But if you have the capability, go ahead and do it. That you might feel like everybody will feel like we're all more of a group, But I keep my camera on most of the time, unless I get sick of seeing my hand going across here. But all we're going to talk about, and I know you've all seen this before, but I'm still going through it anyway, just in case it's been a while. Absolute value and integer operations. The first 2 chapters that we go over, so like almost all the way up to the midterm, is review for most people. So it's stuff you might have seen here and there somewhere else in another class, in another school. And we just it's kind of us getting all on the same page. And then we throw in a little bit more of reading and problem solving. So we're just going to go through those 2 things today. So you've just had a little taste of how it'll be in class, and you get extra credit whenever you answer questions. Even if you're wrong, I'll tell you if your answer's wrong. You don't have to answer it out loud, but you could write on my board if you want. I have it set. So if you have a touch screen, you could try that right now if you want to. You could put a smiley face on there or something. If you don't know how, that's okay. I'll show you how, or someone will show you how. Or we could do it in private too, in an individual session. So you can write on my board anytime, though, as long as it's not like porno sketches. It's not like anything mean about anyone. We're all going to be supportive of each other. So, but usually the students answer during the pandemic. People usually answer in the chat. They send me a private message in the chat with their answer, and then they get extra credit. But you get extra credit however you answer. You can use your voice. It's fine. I had one student who's like, do we have to use the chat? I hate it. Can't you just say? Or you could write all your notes down. Oh, almost forgot about this option. You can write all your notes down and your practice problems and take a picture of it and text it to me after class. So just to remind you, you also could be texting me during class, but I try not to look at my phone unless we're at a quiet moment, because I think that's rude, I'm just really well trained not to, as a teacher, not to look at my phone, not to grab my phone at all. But you can text me answers and I'll catch up on your extra credit later. You get 2 points for every answer that you send me, whether they're wrong or right. It really improves I've noticed that it really improves participation, and it helps people remember that honestly, like you might have had, I don't know what kind of math teachers you've had yet, because no one's talked to me privately or anything, but some math teachers really ruin it for everybody. So some are good, but some make people think that if they're not good at math, they'll never be good at math, and they might as well just keep their mouth shut and not try because they don't want to be humiliated if they got it wrong. But I disagree. So I'm a big fan of I'll never be like, I'll never call your name out like, oh, Shoshone, you got it wrong. I would never say that, but I'll send you a private message. All right. Anyway, so you could always send me answers if you want. So the absolute value just is really like a distance. So we use these kind of like goalposts to show absolute value. And if you have some calculators or like in Excel, if you use Excel, it's abs. That's the thing that you find and click that. If you don't have the absolute value goalposts. But anyway, the absolute value of any number really is the distance from that number to 0 on the number line. That's the official reason. So since a distance is always considered a positive, like when I drive to Pine Ridge from Chadron, from my house, I call that 47 miles. And when I drive back home, I still call that 47 miles. I don't say, well, I went negative 47, now I'm back at 0. But I mean, that would be kind of strange, right? But so the absolute value is considered to be a distance on the number line. I'm pretty sure I have a number line posted in Moodle, but I'll put one up there too, because number lines and multiplication tables are really handy. Some people really, it really helps people sometimes. They're not required. It's not baby stuff either. We use number lines all the way up to calculus 3. We use that. So it's a distance, so it's always positive. Well, not always positive, but here's another one. Absolute value of +6. Sometimes people are like, well, what about that? But that's still, how far is 6 from 0 on the number line? Still 6. And then remember, 0 on the number line is also called the origin. And remember origin story, same idea. It's our starting place. So the origin. So 6, if 6 is over here, there's 3. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 units away from the origin to the right. And -3 was on the left. And that's 3 units away from the origin to the left. So absolute value by itself like that is positive. So a distance is, but I'll show you one that looks weird, a couple that look weird. Then I'll put up 5 for everybody to do if they want. Then you could send me your answers, or you could just like take a deep breath and do some other housekeeping that you want. We'll do integer operations next. I just had that on there for the heading. Oh, and today's date, I almost forgot to put. It's the 27th, first today. Day 1. Okay, so a weirder absolute value problem is if there's a negative in front, like that. We treat that like an order of operations thing, or if there's a parentheses kind of idea. So we work the inside first. So if something like this is going on, we just focus on this, the absolute value of -4. And then just bring that negative sign around, and that outside one slaps onto it like that. So the absolute value of -4 is just 4. But that negative sign it wasn't in the bracket, so it didn't get included when we got rid of the signs. So we bring it around and stick it back on. That kind of confuses people sometimes. So it's not one of my favorites, but I like to show it just so people have seen it. And one other kind of weird one, and then we'll practice a few. One more would be like the absolute value of 6 minus 5. Sometimes people learned somewhere, they picked it up along the way, you know, like it's really like that, like a snowball. That's how we kind of go through all our school years. We pick up stuff and sometimes we don't even know where it came from, but there's this thing like a sock. If you're rolling a snowman and you end up with a sock or a candy wrapper, it's stuck in there, or a cigarette. It's like that, like some idea. So sometimes people picked up along the way that negative sign has to go positive because we'd say absolute value is positive and they get that in their head like, oh, it must be, but no, it's not. We just do the inside again, do this first. So 6 minus 5 is 1. Bring along your brackets. Absolute value of 1 is 1, and that's the answer. So sometimes see they're a little bit strange like that. Does anyone have a question about those examples? Okay, let's practice then. So these are, like I said, you could send me these answers if you want for extra credit, or you could take a picture of them, or not at all. It's not required. I'm not going to ask you to turn it in. Just find these 4 absolute values. We make them different colors. I tutored this boy for a year, and I learned how to teach in Africa where they didn't have any textbooks or anything. So we just had sidewalk chalk. That's all we had, and a cement wall to write on. And so the African kids really liked to see a lot of different colors on their chalkboard. So I do things, all these colors, right? I already did a 3, 17. So this kid I tutored, I would do different colors, switch it up, lots of different colors, and found out after a year, he told me that he's colorblind. It was not even useful to him. And so if anyone's colorblind, if this is annoying to you, just let me know. Then I had in South Carolina, I taught at the university there, and one year my students did like a statistical study of the different colors I used every day, and then they made a graph of it at the end. That was embarrassing because I was like, oh my gosh, my colors are like making things more distracting. So I'm sorry about that if that's happening to you. Try not to be too distracting. And then the last one is like that last example I showed you. Let's say we had 8 minus 10 absolute value. All right. So go ahead and work those out. Send me the answers if you want. I'm just keeping track here. Oh, and if someone misses class and they're watching the recording, I forget, I haven't had new students in a while. I've been teaching the other classes quite a bit, and this is really fun, but I have a little mini announcements today. So let's say if you missed class this Thursday or something, but you want attendance credit, you want to keep up and you have time that night to catch up, and you watch the video, it shouldn't be more than an hour and 15 minutes ever. Watch the video, pause it, write down the answers, if you want to send me those in an email or a text, then you could still get the extra credit too. So you get the practice, the extra credit, and the attendance credit if you do the assignment also. So that's why I usually pause it while we're working on these, and I don't always show the answers just in case someone's doing it that way, you know. So I have a couple, two people have answered so far. And so you could just, I'm going to pause it so you have a couple seconds here. All right, there we go. Okay. So like I said, I won't always go through them like this. You can see all these dots on here. That's because I lost my recording, my play button. So -8, we'll go to 8. 17 is still 17. I know my 7s are weird looking. And this one, the negatives on the outside. So she stays there, and the 5 gets absolute valued. And the last one, take 8 minus 10 first. That 8's too small to get 10 out of it until you go to the negative side. Then the absolute value of -2 is just 2. Does anyone have questions about any of those? Thank you for the people who sent answers. Great. Good job. Oh, and I usually send you back a smiley face. Hold on. I'll do that too. Then we'll just review a little bit with integers and then call it good today and go through some troubleshooting if we need to. Let's see, got everybody. Oh, thank you for reminding me that. I'll get those in the Kristen. I'll get the ones, if anyone sent it to the other me. I'm a Gemini, so there's 2 of me, right? No, that's that doesn't sound good. There's 2 of my devices on right now, so I'll get the other ones when I go over to that computer at the end of class, so don't worry about that. Let me just give everybody their credits right now. And then I'll add the other ones. Cool. Okay. Thanks for reminding me, Kristen, but that one's still on. We're all good. All right. Integers. If you like word origins, you can look up words that have integ as the root of them. Like you might hear, oh, integrate. Well, you know that word, integrate. Integral, like if something is integral to a situation, you might have heard that before. So integ means has a lot of background to it. So actually, I always do this too, so I might as well tell you today. If you want 5 to 10 points extra credit, I'll write XC, that means extra credit. You can look up the origin of this word origin, like its history. Where did it come from? What was the root of it? And then write 3 sentences explaining that you could share with the class or share with just me. And don't just copy from Wikipedia or something. I don't care if you read Wikipedia, but just put it in your own words or highlight what you thought was interesting about that word. Because integer, integrate, we use a lot of words in math that have that start with integ. So it's kind of interesting. And it sounds like a scary word to little kids. If little kids hear integer, they're like, I don't know if I could learn about those, but those are integers are just your counting numbers and their opposites. So positives and negatives. It's the first time that kids learn about negative numbers officially. It's very abstract to them. Usually happens after they learn fractions. So in most schools, like around 4th grade, 5th grade, around there, but it depends on where you go. Every state is different. But it's the counting numbers and their opposites. So we can't really write them in a list. Well, and 0. But we can count from 0, 1, 2, 3. Like you could also call them the whole numbers. And they go on and on forever. That's what that ... means. Just like in the movie Mamma Mia. ... In fact, that ... has a name. Some of you probably know that, but I'm not going to get too distracting. Anyway, we can write the list of integers this way, meaning it's going on forever in both directions towards infinity or negative infinity, but there's no fractions yet, no decimal parts, nothing weird, no radical signs, just counting numbers and their opposites. And that's tricky enough because it's abstract for most people. Not you guys, you're college, of course, gals, but it's hard enough for most people who are first learning this to think about a negative number because there's not a lot of ways to make it feel real unless you owe money or you're walking underground or that kind of thing. But there's not a lot of ways to make negative numbers feel as real as positive numbers that you could touch and move around and count cookies, you could count toes, you could count all these things, but negatives, like, it's a little harder. So that's a little confusing for people in the beginning. So if anyone wants to look up that integer word, just send it to me later or text it to me or whatever. I usually put my number up on the screen too, sometimes in case you don't have your other device. 308-430-2995. That's my cell phone. So you can text me anytime you want. It's fine. So integers, all we're going to do is a few operations with them today. Let's add and subtract. If they have the same sign, we'll just talk about adding first. Same sign. Add the numbers, keep the sign. So like -4 plus -3. Add the numbers and keep the sign negative. So it's like if I owed my uncle $4 and then I owed him 3 more, it's that idea. Or if I went like down 4 steps and then down 3 again, then I've gone down 7. So that's the idea with that. And of course, most people are pretty comfortable with if they're both positive, add the numbers and keep the sign. But if they have opposite signs, it's like a little battle goes on. So they cancel each other out to a certain extent, and then whatever's left is kind of what wins. So with opposite signs, you subtract and keep the sign. Of the larger one. So like -5 plus +3. And this is the reason. Here's your 5 negatives. We'll make them red. And 3 positives. So the reason we subtract is this. Like that, those cancel out to 0. They just zero each other out, neutralize each other like some kind of superhero. And then these cancel out. And all that were left is 2 reds, and red was negative. So the answer is -2. So that's why we subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. But so to me, it makes more sense to think of the picture. But to a lot of people, they want to memorize the rule. That's either way, it's all good. However it works for you. Let's do 2 more practice examples, and then we'll practice. So opposite signs, -8 plus +12. And then we'll do one that has more than 1. This one I made a little harder, and I'll talk about friendly numbers that work well together, or combining similar numbers. And so some of you, a couple of you are in business. Some people have probably already done ledger books. Whether you're in business or not, you've balanced a ledger or done that kind of work, either at home or at work somewhere. So a lot of people have different cool strategies. It's another reason I love teaching college. People have come from lots of different places, and they have different experiences, and they could share and combine each other's strategies. It's great. Oh, so this, I was doing this one. Okay, they're opposite signs, so subtract 12 minus 8. And the bigger number is 12, so it's positive. But you can write the plus, but you don't have to write a plus. So it's going to equal +4. And then this one, I think I would just combine all the negatives first. So it's -8. And we just put them in parentheses to keep them separate from that plus sign. It's sort of like a spacer bead. And then that parentheses keeps it from mashing together. So it's kind of what we're doing. So 3, 4, 8. So -8 plus 6. So 8 minus 6 is 2. The 8 is larger. If you took its sign off, it would be larger. So it's -2 is the answer. I encourage people to either put a little box around your work, or a highlighter, or some kind of, like I've had students that do like all kinds of pretty flowers, smiley faces, and you don't have to do all that. And I'm not going to see most of your work, but do it for yourself. So you could see when you look at your work, when you're studying or doing your midterm, you can use your notes on the midterm now because we're online. So when you're doing your midterm or you're doing your homework or something, if you've made your work nice and neat for yourself and highlighted your answers or underlined them or something, or put them in a different color, then that'll help you figure out what you were up to. So do keep your work organized. Keep a notebook, even though I'm not going to be checking it, or keep all your papers in a binder in order. Put numbers on them or the date so you can look back through them when you're ready to do an assignment or a test, or next year if you want to keep it for your next algebra class. If we're in the classroom, I walk around like, where's your notebook? Bring a notebook. Organize your notebook. Let me see this page. Like I'll do that in class, but I can't here really. I'm not going to ask people to scan them all and put them in Moodle. That's too much. Does anyone have a question about these ones? We're going to practice a couple. And I know some of you too. Oh, also some of you might be like, this is too easy, this class. I'm in the wrong place. Well, first of all, it's not going to stay this easy. We just review the first 3 days. But also, if you think you really might be in the wrong place, we're doing math test outs later in July. So you could test out of this class and you get credit and you get a passing grade for it if you pass the test out. So you could opt to do that instead of taking the class if it just feels too easy and jump into the next level. I think Warren Cross is teaching Math 134 this session also. So that's a 4-hour class instead of this is a 3. But it's just the next level of this. So if you're interested in that, talk to me after class too, or contact me right away though, because you wouldn't want to fall behind in that class if you're going to switch. I almost forgot to announce that. All right, so let's practice these and then we'll just call it a day. And I'll go ahead and walk through what the WebAssign looks like. And we'll pick up from here next time. We'll pick up with multiplying integers, dividing integers tomorrow, and reviewing fractions, how to work fractions. Okay, so let's practice some adding and subtracting integers. Okay, and then I'll pause this, give people about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes to do